This lecture we will talk about the port scanning and the tools used in this port scanning. The port scanning is a passive way of attacking the network. When you scan for the ports, and as we know, the port and the port number is a parameter that is defined in the transport layer, in layer 4. When you scan for open ports in a certain machine, so you are scanning for a backdoor on this machine. An open port with no reason, an open port with no service installed on it that is intended to be there, is a backdoor, is a vulnerability in this machine. Port scanning is an introduction to active attacks. Port scanning itself is a breach for the confidentiality. It can be used to identify the network and draw a map of this network that is not allowed for you to know about. So you can draw a map of the servers and the machines, and you can know the operating systems working on this network, the switches and the routers, and can know many things on this network through only port scanning. You can scan the ports of each machine starting from number 1 to 65,535. And you can scan each port twice, once for TCP connections and once for UDP connections. On the market, there are several and various tools that are used for port scanning. We will here try to use the Nmap. The Nmap and its GUI version that is called ZenMap, that works over Windows because it is easier and more friendly in usage. We will try these both tools to scan and practice the port scanning over the network. This is an output of Nmap for port scanning. Let's see what this output tells us. It says that it has scanned the machine having the IP address 10.10.10.5. It scanned the ports that are less than 1024 and scanned it for its state, either it is closed or open. We can see this machine as very vulnerable. It has many open ports that can be susceptible for attacks, that can be used by attackers to compromise this machine, to remotely administrate this machine, to know many things about this machine and copy and paste files from these machines. Whatever the attacking tool can do to this machine, it can be done through these open ports that are open for no reason. Port 21, 23, 25, 79, 98, 111, 113, 513, 514, 515, and each port of them is mentioned what the service should be there. It seems that this machine is an ordinary machine, that no service is supposed to be there. And despite of this, we can see a number of open ports for no reason existing on this machine, which means that this machine is vulnerable. Vulnerable to many types of attacks. The attacker can use several software tools to intrude and log in and check in inside this machine through one of its open ports. The port scanning types. There are several types of port scanning. Either you can ping the machine to know the open ports. This is called the ping scan. Either you can simulate a null connection with this machine through sending a SYN packet and receiving SYN ACK packet, and then sending back an ACK packet. This is called a full open scan, which means that this port is fully open and vulnerable to any type of connection. It has achieved the three-way handshaking completely. Or you can use the half open scan that sends SYN packets and only receives the response. In this type of scanning, you do not need to achieve the three-way handshaking completely. You can achieve it partially. You can achieve part of it by sending SYN or ACK or FIN and receive one response. No need to receive the full response of the full open scan, so that's why it is called half open scan type. We need here, before completing about port scanning, to set our rule that applies on port scanning and on any tool that can be taught here in our course. The difference between a security administrator that we aim to graduate from this course and a hacker that it is not intended to be the aim of our course at all is permission. You can make port scanning with permission as security administrator, but you cannot make port scanning without permission, because at this point you are a hacker. You can sniff the network with permission, then you are security administrator. But if you sniff the network without permission, then you are a hacker. The difference between a security administrator in any action and a hacker is getting the permission. Getting the permission from the owner of the network, from the CEO of the organization, from the administrator, from the higher level, getting it published and known that you are achieving port scanning for security reasons, and you are not a hacker that is achieving port or performing port scanning for attacking reasons. Port scanning can be used for the identification of operating system. If you scan the open ports and send some packets to a certain machine and then receive the response, you can analyze the response and compares this response against the fingerprint of the responses of Windows, or the fingerprint of the responses of Linux, or the fingerprint of the responses of Mac. Then you can say, because I have sent this machine such packet and received such response, this machine should be Windows, this machine should be Linux, this machine should be Mac. And moreover, you can identify the version of the operating system, the servers up and running on this operating system, either this operating system is up to date or not, is patched or not. You can develop so many fingerprints for this operating system and determine many information about this operating system only by port scanning and by sending it some packets and receiving the response and analyzing it. Nmap tool is a port scanning software. It can be used on Windows and Linux. ZenMap is the GUI, the graphical user interface version of Nmap. It is easy and its interface is friendly so that it can show the output of the port scanning operation. Now here we will try to install the Nmap over this machine and see how is it installed. Very simple. After the installation, you will find that you can give this Nmap the IP address, the target IP address that you want to scan, or the range of IP addresses that you want to scan, and it will show you each IP address with the open ports existing on it. Each port with its state either closed or open, and then you can have an imagination or an image or an idea about how this network works and how this network is operating and the types of machines and what are the server machines, what are the client machines, what are the switches on this network, and so on. Of course, Nmap stands for network map. Here it is now installing, and it is helpful that we install it together online to see the steps of the installation and the steps of the setup, the steps of running such a tool. Very easy and very simple and very friendly. It needs no experience. And it is somehow educational, that can show so many helpful output. Now the installation has ended, and now we can start using Nmap. Nmap is now installed on the desktop, and here we can determine the target IP address that needs to be scanned, and here we can define the type of scan. It can be more than one type of scan. It can either be ping, quick scan plus, or any type of scan. And here we will have the output machines, and here we will have the list of the open ports on each machine. So this would how the output of Nmap look like. It's very easy. You just determine here the IP address of the machine that you would like to scan and start pressing scan. Then the output will start showing on here, showing the open ports on this machine. I'm here scanning the local machine, and it here showed some open ports on my machine that are used for sharing and things like this.